everybody. I know everybody's stuck at home, probably going a little stir crazy, and it just hurts me not to be able to have chapel. So I had this idea of videoing some messages, and everybody can send it out. You can watch chapel time when you are ready. Everything will be on my YouTube, and maybe we can just kind of have some semblance of normalcy while everybody's at home trying to do online schooling. So first of all, let me say I miss you guys. Just to chapels are like my favorite thing. And so to not be able to see you guys in your faces and give you high fives. So let me give everybody a virtual high five right now. Okay, I miss you, and that way no germs get across anyway. But I wish we could all be together. But you know what? We've got to do what we've got to do. And I know everybody's world's kind of turned upside down. So first of all, let me say this. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you stop learning about God. And we're going to have to be a little bit more disciplined in getting our schoolwork done because the teachers aren't standing right there. We got to be patient with each other. Your teachers are trying to get stuff out to you to help. Your parents are having to do something they've never probably had to do before. They're a little stressed out. So it is your job to do what is asked of you and to do your best and to be tough. We don't want to be whiners and criers just because things are normal and we can't do what we want to. We got to be tough and push through and do what is asked of us. But if what we can do, hopefully I'm going to take that out. So what I want to do in this time is I kind of want to continue what we've been doing in chapel. And if you guys remember, we are just going straight through the Old Testament. Now we can't do the hand signs on video, but we can go through the information, the storyline, and then when we get back together, we can go back and learn all the hand signs that go with all of these events. Now preschool, if you're jumping in on this, you guys did not get Joshua. But you guys remember Joshua, not doing a hand sign, just saying Joshua was the military guy. Well, they go in and they take over Israel. The Jews take over Israel just like God had told them, I'm going to give you this land. It was the promised land because it's the land that God had promised them. And at the end of Joseph's life, they're still trying to take over parts of Israel. And at the death of Joshua, he was 110 years old when he died. He lived a very long life. And the Bible tells us that everybody followed God while Joshua was still alive. And then with the death of Joshua, and then some of the guys that were under Joshua, some of the elders that helped him out, everybody was doing what they were supposed to. Everybody's settling in the land. They're building their houses. They're, growing things on their farms, and everything is going really well. But once all of those older leaders died, the people, matter of fact, let me read it to you, okay? This is from the book of Judges. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. All right, so it's, if you think of it in that order, this is right after Joshua, and then Ruth comes next. But in chapter 2, it actually says in verse 11, and the people of Israel, this is after the death of Joshua, the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And this is what they did. They served Baal. This is a different god. Matter of fact, there was a bunch of those different gods that kind of fall under Baal, B-A-A-L. They abandoned the Lord, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and they went after other gods from among the gods of the people who were around them, and they bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger. Now, first of all, let's establish something. The fact that they turned away, this was evil in the sight of the Lord. They turned away from God, and they started worshiping these other gods. Now, I want you guys to think about, how many of you have memorized the 10 Commandments? Which one of the 10 Commandments, it says, you shall have no other gods before me? Meaning nobody is more important than God. You don't bow down to anybody. You don't pray to anybody but God. And this is exactly what they did when Joshua and the other leaders had died. Guys, This hurt God because these were his people and they had turned their backs on him. It hurt him and it provoked him to anger. Now, God is a good God. And he wanted to get his people's attention. So what he did, and this is what God does sometimes, God will allow bad things to happen to get his people's attention when we're not. And think about it. Do you guys get distracted easily? I mean, just already, all right, this week, how many of you guys you were supposed to be doing your homework, but instead you're watching YouTube or you're watching Disney Plus or you're doing something else? We get distracted really easily and we sometimes forget what we're supposed to do. What is the right thing to do? And teachers have to get your attention. Your parents are going to have to get your attention. Maybe they turned off the TV and you're not allowed to have it this week. I don't know. But we sometimes forget and we get distracted. And this is what happened to the Jews, is they got distracted by all these other gods and they started praying to all these other gods. And when this happened, this is what we call the time of the judges. And the reason it's called that is because God's going to send a judge to rescue the day. And so this is the way it went down, all right? Things were good, but then the Jews had turned away from God. And so God would allow another group of people to come in and take over. Sometimes it was like 40 days. One time it was like 40 years. And in that time, God allowed things to be tough for them. Why? Not because he's being mean or punishing them. He was trying to get their attention. And then they finally get it. God is trying to get our attention. And they repent. God, we are so sorry. We want to come back to you. And God would call a judge. Now, when we think of a judge, we normally think of order in the court, order in the court. It's not exactly that. A judge was somebody who was a prophet, meaning they got information from God and they told the people what the information was. And they also raised up an army to get rid of this group that had come in and taken over. Then everything was hunky, and they would, go to battle. Everything was great, and then everything would be hunky-dory dandy again. But guess what? Then they'd forget about God again, and they'd start worshiping other gods. And so God would allow somebody to come in and take over. And then after a period of time, they would go, oh, we get it. God's trying to get our attention. And then God would raise up a judge. There would be this big battle. Everybody would turn back to God, and everything was hunky-dory again. And guys, this actually happened 7 times over a 400-year period. And so what we call this is the judges cycles, because it happened over and over and over again 7 times. Now, I know what you're thinking. Really? These people over 400 years did this 7 times. How forgetful can they be? I mean, seriously. Well, think about how many times has your mom had to tell you to clean your room? More than once? Again, humans, we are forgetful. And God allowed bad things to happen to get their attention. And so we're going to go through the next couple of weeks and we're going to talk about some of these judges. There's actually a girl judge, which I'm very excited to talk about because that was an unusual thing. And as a matter of fact, this week, I encourage you guys to kind of flip through Judges and see if you can pick out some of the judges. All right. Who's the girl one? There's one that is left-handed and I'm left-handed. And so I feel very close to him. And there's some crazy stories in Judges too. There's one that had really long hair. See if you can figure out who that is. And so as we look at these judges, see if you can go ahead this week and pick out some of the names. So the next time we get together, you guys will go, oh yeah, I know him. I saw that in the book of Judges. But I want to go back to, guys, God had to allow bad things to happen to get their attention. Now, I don't want you to get the idea God doesn't make bad things happen. God allows it. But we know God's a big God. All right? God can do anything. And God could stop things if it's in his plan. And so what we see in the time of the judges is God does not stop these other groups from coming in and taking over, but it's for a purpose. And that's what we've got to remember. All right. When it comes to God's people, God's not going to allow something bad to happen unless there is a purpose for it. Now, for the judge, in the time of the judges, the purpose was to get their attention. Now, right now, everybody's at home trying to stay away from any germs so nobody gets sick. And it can be kind of tough and maybe even a little bit scary. But I want you to remember that God's a big God. God's not left you. He's right there with you. You can't see him, but God is right there. And we have to stop and think, why is God allowing this bad thing to happen? And I want God to get your attention. And hopefully that's what you've done. God doesn't want you to sit around and be afraid. He wants you to look to him and find out, God, what are you trying to get my attention about? What are you trying to show me? And God wants you to talk to him about it. Tell God when you're afraid. Tell God or ask God, what is this about? What would you have me do today as I'm sitting at home when I'd rather be at school playing with my friends at recess? God, what are you trying to get my attention about? And notice it was a cycle. They would come back to God. They didn't get kicked out of the family because they messed up. This is his people. And guys, if you're a follower of Jesus, you're his children. You're his now people. And God's trying to get your attention. Look to him, talk to him, ask him. Tell him what's on your mind. If you're looking for something to read and you're like, I feel like a pretty strong reader, pick up and open your Bible to the book of John and just read through the book of John. It's just the story of Jesus, and it's a really good version of it. And it's a lot of good teaching stuff. But just slowly read through the book of John. It's really great, and it's all about Jesus. And it's a great thing to lead up to Easter that's coming next month. And so as you're all at home, bored, I wanted to just kind of take a moment and remember what we've been learning. All right? We've gone through Genesis. God got the Jews out of Egypt in Exodus. Remember, he gave them the law in the book of Leviticus. They were in the desert for 40 years in the book of Numbers. Well, now they've come out of, and we got the book of Deuteronomy where God gives the law to Moses the second time. And Joshua, they've gone in and taken over the land. We're going to pick up right after that in the book of Judges. And it's kind of a dark time. There's a verse at the end of the book of Judges that kind of summarizes that 400 years of history. And it goes like this. It says, and everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Think about it. If everybody is doing whatever they want, how crazy that would be. And it's not a good thing. And it's a story of how God is going to give his people 7 chances to come back to him. So this is a really short one. It's only going to be about 15 minutes. But it's just a start. If a lot of people get on and watch it and everybody wants us to continue doing this, you know what? I'll send out another video. If you want to go look at some of my other stuff because you're bored, this video will be on my YouTube channel. It's called Humbly His Resources. You'll see my little picture there. And poke around. There's actually some other chapels on there that I videoed from a few years ago. And if everybody's interested, I'll put some more things on there that you guys can watch. Just little thoughts and stuff, because I don't want you to forget about Jesus just because you're at home and, get all wrapped up into watching TV and sleeping too much. There's some good stuff that you can be doing. So we are in the time of the Judges now. Go check out the book of Judges, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.